Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nuraainaa Diyana, Binti Mohamed Zaidi. My ID number is KA17266. My supervisor is Dr. Sabrina Binti Ahmad Mutamim. So, the title of my thesis is Treatment of Sulfidic Spent Caustic using Catalytic Wet Air Oxidation with Granular Activated Carbon. For the background of study, basically in this paper, I'm focusing on spent caustic, spent caustic is very known as toxic waste that can be classified as reactively highly corrosive as it contains sulfide, high chemical oxygen demand, highly odorous caustic spent, and have respectively high pH value. Basically, there are three general types of spent caustic, which are naphthenic, phenolic, and sulfidic. And the caustic stream usually produce sodium salts such as sodium sulfide and sodium bisulfite, and it needs to remove hydrogen sulfides and merceptins. In the open environment, disposal of these compounds will release hydrogen sulfides that is strongly objectionable odor and very toxic if exposed to human and environment. Okay, for motivation, basically, spent caustic source us from petrochemical industry, but petrochemical industry is one of the most beneficial industry in economy, and most importantly, the petrochemical industry plays a huge role in benefiting Malaysia economy, which also Malaysian Investment Development Authority has reported that petrochemical industry in Malaysia contribute 14.5% to Malaysia gross domestic products and about 14.7% to Malaysia income in 2016. And reported from Samar project, Petronas plant at Sabah produced 0.3 tons of wastewater in every ton of urea produced, and about 0.36 million tons of wastewater released to Sabah Sea each year. And wastewater sludge has resulted in Petronas companies to having paid approximately 3 million per financial year for its disposal service to Quality Alam. But the wastewater sludge from refinery operations of petrochemical industry has become a very huge problem for most companies due to its diverse range of contaminants such as sulfides, merceptins, nitrogen dioxide, and many more. Besides environment problem has impact on COD that demand purification of wastewater industry to be discharged into the natural water. And this problem has become major concern among the petrochemical industry because they want to reduce the company's expenses from year to year, and some alternative must be considered to reduce the cost for this wastewater treatment. And so here I would like to propose the treatment of sulfidic spent caustic using catalytic wet air oxidation with granular activated carbon. And the aim of my studies is to study the removal of COD and sulfide at resident times range from 1 hour to 7 hours in sulfidic spent caustics using catalytic wet air oxidation with granular activated carbon. And the study also to investigate the activity of activated carbon in sulfidic spent caustic treated using this method, and also to study the effect of pH on sulfidic spent caustic treated under this process with granular activated carbon. For the scope of study, we want to perform sulfide and COD removal via catalytic wet oxidation with activated carbon, and we want to collect wastewater sample and modified by mix with sodium sulfide to increase the concentration sulfide in synthetic wastewater till 3,200 milligram per liter. And then the oil bath temperature was fixed at 120 degrees Celsius, and wastewater temperature was fixed at 110 degrees Celsius. And the flow rate of oxygen were fixed at 0.15 liter per minute and controlled by air flow meter. And the wave of dosage activated carbon injected in this process is 3 gram, and resident times investigate for the time reaction in this process is from 1 hour to 7 hours. Okay, let's proceed with our experiments. So for this experiments, we need the wastewater sample, and we also need sodium sulfide, which we will inject it into wastewater sample to make it the sulfide concentration till 3,200 milligram per liter. And then we need COD reagent at high range, sulfide reagent 1 and 2 for the sulfide analysis, granular activated carbon, which we want to inject in the process, and also the silicon oil, which we use as a medium heat transfer from hot plate stirrer to the wastewater. Okay, so for the apparatus setup, we need a clamp and lithoid stand, which we need two clamp to clamp the airflow meter and also our round bottom flask. And then we need thermometer to check the temperature of the wastewater, and also 3 naked round bottom flasks, which will act as the reactor in this process, beaker and tube for the condenser, airflow meter to control and check the air flow rate in our system, tray stopper, which we want to ensure the system is in closed reactor, and also we need the tube for air pump, which we also need the air pump to supply the oxygen, and steel bowl, and also hot plate stirrer, which we want to heat the synthetic wastewater in this process. Okay, so for preparation of wastewater sample, firstly we collect the wastewater sample from open drainage at Kuantan, and then we analyze the COD and sulfide concentration in the wastewater using UV visible spectrophotometer, and then we modified the wastewater until the sulfide concentration at 3,200 mg per liter, and again we check the sulfide and COD concentration using UV visible spectrophotometer. As for preliminary experiment, we place 300 ml of modified wastewater sample into magnetically stirred 3 naked glass reactor, and we add 3 grams of granular activated carbon into the sample and heat to 110 degrees Celsius. Then the reaction is continuously stirred at 1200 RPM using magnetic stirrer, and after 60 minutes of reaction, the heating is switched off and let it cool to room temperature. After that, we filter the granular activated carbon, and the sample is again filtered using 0.45 micrometer nylon filter, and the concentration of COD and sulfide is analyzed under UV visible spectrophotometer, and the granular activated carbon was sent to seconding electron microscopy analysis. Okay, for the main experiment, which is catalytic wet air oxidation, the experiment is run in semi-batch-wise and in closed reaction system, which firstly, we place 300 ml of modified wastewater sample into magnetically stirred 3 naked glass reactor, and then we add 3 grams of granular activated carbon and heat the wastewater sample to 110 degrees Celsius, and once it reaches 110 degrees Celsius, the air is drawn from the air pump and regulate at 0.15 liter per minute, and we fix the stirring at 1200 RPM, and after 60 minutes of reaction, the heating is switched off and let it cool to room temperature. After that, we take the value of pH, we filter the granular activated carbon from wastewater sample, and the sample is once again filtered using 0.45 micrometer nylon filter. And after that, we analyze the concentration of COD and sulfide using UV visible spectrophotometer, and we calculate the percentage error. This experiment is repeat from step 1 to step 7. For 7 different resident times, range from 1 hour to 7 hours. So as first results and discussion, we want to study about the effect of reaction time on COD. So the resident time is tested between 1 hour to 7 hours, and we found out that the COD concentration is decreasing, and even the removal efficiency show the positive trend, which is the COD removal is directly proportional to the time, and we can see the regression is 0.989, which means it shows a good performance result for COD removal under catalytic wet air oxidation with granular activated carbon. This was because the longer time taken for the reaction process to treat the sulfidic spent caustic, the higher chance of oxygen molecule to collide onto the catalyst surface and produce the free radical. So the hydroxyl radicals that were generated can be considered as positive effect that can enhance the removal efficiency of COD. as referred by Chang et al. In 2013. And also, as reported from some reference, when very high temperature was used to treat spent caustic, the oxidation can occur within a short time. So for this experiment, the temperature is fixed at 110 degrees Celsius. So it requires some time to provide the strong driving force of oxidation to occur, as solubility of oxygen in the reaction mixture was enhanced by the residence times and the temperature. For the second finding in this experiment is the effect of reaction time on the sulfide. So we can see that as the time passes from 1 hour to 7 hours, the sulfide concentration also decreasing, and is well-founded result because the sulfide removal efficiency is increasing also rapidly. And from the graph of sulfide removal versus time, it also showed the positive trend, which is sulfide removal is directly proportional to time, with regression constant is 0.9956. So for the treatment of sulfidic spent caustic using catalytic weather oxidation with granular activated carbon, show very good and positive trend, which high amount of hydrogen sulfide is likely to oxidize to sulfur radicals and then to sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide, while the granular activated carbons impregnated with caustics are very benefits in the removing of acidic gases like hydrogen sulfide, as referred by Ambrosius et al. 2020. And as proposed by Herren et al., in the mechanism of the adsorption or oxidation of granular activated carbon, hydrogen sulfide to be oxidized by active oxygen has to be first dissociated to hydrogen sulfide ions. And this dissociation of hydrogen sulfide ions will occur in the film of adsorbed water at the virgin carbon surface. And these hydrogen sulfide ions will be oxidized by oxygen radicals to elemental sulfur. On the other hand, this when caustic is present, it catalyzes oxidation to elemental sulfur until all base is done. And this finding excludes the oxygen from surface functional groups as a contributor to oxidation of hydrogen sulfide. Okay, so here is the oxidation process and the chemical equation from sodium sulfate to produce the final products, which is sodium sulfate and also sodium thiosulfate. And it is known that the reaction of equation 5 may proceed far more rapidly than that of equation 3 and 4. And as a result, considerable amount of sodium thiosulfate is left in solution together with sodium sulfate, which is the final oxidized product from the sodium sulfide. So in a weakly alkaline medium, which pH is lower than 12.5, thiosulfate is rapidly oxidized by presence of catalyst, and thiosulfate and sulfide were not oxidized until the complete disappearance of sodium sulfide in the solution. Then its concentration of sodium sulfide will decrease, and concentration of final product, which is sodium sulfate, will increase, which means very good results that we can oxidize almost every of sulfide in the spent caustic. For the third finding is the effect of reaction time on pH. So from this experiment, we found out that the pH is constant between 9 to 10 from the first hour of reaction time till the 7th hour of reaction time. And as reported by T.J. Benders, local pH in the pore system of granular activated carbon has a significant effect on efficiency of hydrogen sulfide dissociation and its oxidation to various sulfur species. And actually, moderately low average pH of carbon surface is expected to suppress the dissociation of hydrogen sulfide and create hydrogen sulfide ions. So this hydrogen sulfide ion will be oxidized to sulfur polymers, and so that we can decrease the sulfide concentration in the spent caustic. So for the fourth finding is the STEM image of granular activated carbon, and here is the figure of STEM image of activated carbon before and after the absorption process that we carried in the preliminary experiments. And it shows the surface texture at 1500 times magnification. And from this figure, we can see that after the absorption process, the surface of granular activated carbon is more smooth, which could attribute to the accumulation of sulfide, which we can prove that there is some sulfide adsorbed onto the granular activated carbon. So for the last finding in this experiment, the initial and final of sulfide concentration in sulfidic spent caustic at preliminary experiment are 3,200 mg per liter and 2,944 mg per liter respectively. And from equation of adsorption capacity and sulfide removal, we got that the uptake of sulfide is 0.0256 mg per gram with 8% sulfide removal. We can say that there's some adsorption process in this experiment, but then there is another factor that play a role, which is the degree of carbon oxidation, and this finding is approved by V. Sivanandan Achari et al. In 2018. So in this paper, the surface reaction I propose at dual side mechanism, in which the adsorbate reactants interact with another side to form the product, which is water and sulfur oxide. And the proposed pathway mechanism of sulfide adsorption oxidation is following the Langmuir-Hirschi-Wolff mechanism. And here X represent the active sites in granular activated carbon, which firstly I propose the adsorption step, which is oxygen and hydrogen sulfide reaction, and then second is surface reaction of hydrogen sulfide to get the water and sulfur radicals, and then for the third is the desorption, which is the reaction of water and sulfur and also the sulfur dioxide in the catalytic. For the conclusion, catalytic wet air exfoliation with granular activated carbon prove us that COD and sulfide removal can be achieved at 78.56 and 82.91% respectively. Second, granular activated carbon show excellent role in absorption and oxidation catalytic to remove COD and sulfide in sulfidic spent caustic. And lastly, catalytic wet air oxidation have a very little dependence on pH of the solution, as the pH of our solution is within 9 to 10 only. So there are some limitations in this experiment due to the time constraint. To achieve the better performance of COD and sulfide removal, firstly, it is suggested to modify the granular activated carbon as a catalyst. Secondly, longer the residence times for current operating conditions to treat the sulfidic spent caustic. Thirdly, investigate the optimum condition with shorter residence times to treat the sulfidic spent caustic. So that's all from me. Thank you.